So I try to eliminate the word pay and payment and things like that and look at it as investment. You're investing in yourself, and this investment can go long term. It can pass on to your children's children, your family, your generations to come after you, even after you're long gone. If you look at it like that, it'll just make all the difference in the world.
Welcome to the Aid to Assets podcast, the ultimate podcast for aspiring real estate investors. I'm your host, Tiffany Watson. Join me as we discuss real estate investing for 9-to-5ers. We'll talk about everything from money mindsets and property ownership and different strategies you can use to invest in real estate. I want to empower investors, especially those of us who are working full-time, who want to navigate the world of real estate, uncover the secrets to building wealth, generate passive income to achieve financial freedom. Equip yourself with resources from experts, practical tips, and step-by-step guides on how to kickstart your real estate journey. We'll also hear from 9-to-5ers who started to build their own portfolios, what they did and how they did it, so you can do it too. Tune in and transform your main job into your biggest silent investor in your real estate investment business. This is your Aid to Assets. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Aid to Assets podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Watson, where I get to interview 9-to-5ers who have made the jump into this wonderful world of real estate investing and the people who help them do it. And so today I am so excited to get to introduce you to my guest and hear all about her story as we talk about the due diligence in real estate and relationships. So Kim, how you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Tiffany. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming. I am so glad that you are here. So before we get into any of the fun details, we always like to tell people like who you are, what you do, where you're from, all that fun stuff.
Okay, so my name is Kim Dews, originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, by way of Nashville, Tennessee, by way of Atlanta, Georgia, and now currently Houston, Texas. My professional trade is I'm in finance by day at Vanderbilt. I was allotted to do remote, so I am doing remote work for Vanderbilt in Houston, Texas. And then by night and weekends, I am an investor.
Love it. And tell us a little bit about your portfolio. What is your real estate strategy? What do you have? All that good stuff too.
Okay. So for me, I've dabbled in a couple of things, just really trying to find like what my niche is. And so low-hanging fruit, I started off doing tax liens. I started off in St. Louis, Missouri, because that is a no redemption state. So I had acquired a couple of multifamily homes there. I've had 3 Airbnbs, and then I have my own personal home. For those of you that do not know me, fairly recently divorced. So when that was finalized, I actually lost everything that I had. And so I sold some of those things. I split the shares with my former spouse. And so I am starting all over. I believe kind of like in the millionaire mindset that a lot of times they have filed bankruptcy like multiple times, but because the knowledge is like intellectual property, they're able to build back again. So after the divorce, which was fairly recently, like in April of this year, I ended up purchasing another home here in Houston, Texas. And I am currently using my home now to house traveling nurses 2 minutes away from medical center. So the bottom floor, I'm 3 levels. So the bottom floor, I will rent that out for traveling nurses. And then I still have one more Airbnb left in Tennessee. So I have a JV deal with our current coach, Terica Lynn Smith. We have 16 properties in Talladega, Alabama. So yeah, starting all over.
Start all over, but the portfolio was already portfolioing. So we are good. And there's so much that I want to unpack here because you named several different strategies. And that's always something that we talk about for new investors is figuring out, okay, so you want to invest. There isn't just one way to do that. And so I love that how you have really diversified in real estate investing to try out different things. So we're going to unpack several of those and talk about what you liked and what you didn't about it.
Okay.
But then also how I want to just from the jump, y'all go ahead and hit that like, subscribe button, because if you can't already hear, Kim about to drop some jewels on us. Because one of the things that you said was, it's the intellectual property. Yes, you were starting over, but in my mind, what I imagine, if you did it once, you could do it again, but this time you could do it quicker because you already know what you're doing.
Because you already know. That's right. That's right.
I love that. I love that. So let's start from the beginning. You mentioned that you first started with tax liens. And so first, for people, listeners that aren't as familiar, you mentioned that Missouri, their right of redemption. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means and how that was beneficial for you as an investor?
Okay. So each state actually has tax liens and tax deeds. Tax deeds in St. Louis, Missouri, is a no redemption. What that means is once that house is available at the auction, the homeowner has surpassed the time to be able to acquire, to get their property back, because they have either received multiple warnings, they have received, you're talking about years of delinquency where they had not paid their taxes. And so I didn't want to wait, because a lot of cities and states, they have like 1 year, 2 year, 3 years where you're doing the actual tax lien. And if they redeem that property back, you would get your money back for what you paid into it, but also a percentage of interest depending upon what that city and state has. So there was actually another one that I had in Chicago, Illinois as well. Illinois is 18% interest. And so that one had a 6-month period. I had bought, it was a lakefront home for $14,000. The lady she was back due like in 3 years. She had actually lost her property before, and she ended up paying at the last minute. I ended up getting an attorney, and I paid for the taxes, $14,000. She had 6 months to redeem. By the 4th month, she had ended up redeeming. And so that house would have been valued at $120,000 had she not had paid. So I would have just had that, and that would have been like with no fixing up or anything. And so I ended up getting my money back plus 18% interest. So I got back, I think, like a little bit over $2,000 in addition to the $14,000 that I paid. So
So let me make sure I have this right for listeners. So with these tax liens, essentially these are homes where individuals have not paid their taxes on them, and so they're then going into foreclosure.
correct.
And you are able to purchase the tax lien itself. So the tax debt is what you were able to purchase to make you the owner of the home. And so you said lakefront property in Chicago,
Yes.
you potentially could have been an owner of for $14,000 with with the house being worth $125,000.
Yes.
And so even though the owner did ultimately end up paying up what she was due,
Mm-hmm.
you still made $2,000 almost in 4 months.
I did. That's more that you can get from just letting the money sit in the bank. So if I let the $14,000 sit in the bank,
come on, somebody,
I would have got pennies, So yeah, I became first lien holder on that, but because she redeemed it, and I still probably could have worked something out with her. If she didn't, she could have came to me directly, but I was like, this is the second time that you have done this. Like, I'm not going to let her redeem it. So, but it all worked itself out. I have so many stories where I didn't understand, but looking back now, even with, my union being severed, there was a fix and flip that I had also acquired in Chicago, Illinois. I had just joined the mastermind with Terica Lynn Smith. I just joined the real estate mastermind in January. I went under contract in February for this. It was a rehab. I paid $65,000 for the house. The rehab was $65,000, and then I was going to flip it for it was like 220 something. So the numbers worked, we ended up changing the closing date like 5 times. And 3 hours before closing, I walked away from the deal. And my coach, the hard money lender, they all called me. They were like, Kim, like, what's going on? Like, are you scared? Like, why didn't you close? And I couldn't figure it out. I was like, the numbers work. I was like, no, I'm not scared. I was like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Fast forward to now, when I went into contract with that property, I was married. My spouse was not working, and Chicago's permits were like backed up like 5 6 months. So I still would have had to carry, the debt and things like that. And so looking back now that the union has been severed, I believe that that was God protecting me and not going forward with that deal, because the weight financially would have been so heavy on me. I still lost some things with that. I lost my earnest money in that deal. I lost my retainer fee with the attorney. I lost inspection costs, contractor costs. But how much more did I gain by if I had still, gone forward with that? And so real estate is a contact sport. You learn through experiences. And once you learn, prayerfully, if it was a lesson, I don't want to say loss, I always say lessons, you learn from it. And so, yeah, I have stories for days, but
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so let's go back now, because when you were considering these properties in Chicago, but first off, where were you living?
I was in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
I had LLCs that are registered in other areas that I want to acquire property in. So from Ohio, Tennessee, Philadelphia. Philadelphia LLC had a foreign entity attached to it, and that was the one from Chicago, Illinois. So with that one, I found out that my LLC name, there was another company that had the same name in Chicago, Illinois. So I had to end up doing a foreign entity so that I could be able to get it under contract. So that was something that I learned. That's another thing you want to do with your due diligence when you're titling companies and names. You want to do a thorough research to make sure that there's not another company that's out there with the same.
Absolutely. So tell us, what led to your comfort with out-of-state investing? A lot of times we hear, especially if we're in markets where either we're in high cost of living markets or the numbers just don't make sense, it can be appealing to go somewhere else where we may be able to find a good deal, but there's a lot of hesitation with not being in that particular market yourself that you're investing in. Tell us about how you got comfortable with that.
Okay. I would still like to say that I feel like starting off in your own backyard is probably, if you can, is probably the best strategy, because you have more access to have eyes on your property. So I don't want to just say, hey, if you live in Alaska, go ahead and buy property in Hawaii. I'm not saying that. And really, it's a risk adverse thing too. So it's really like your comfort level. I feel like if you've got strong boots on the ground, if you've got strong network where you've got people that you've got title, you've got access to title companies, you've got access to contractors, you've got access to people that you trust, that you feel comfortable with, where you can be able to do, your fix and flips or your buy and holds. And then even if you are able to go out there occasionally and still see what the people are doing, because people can say anything at any time and not be doing anything. And knowing that market too. So there's certain markets where, like I said, it's more low entry, hanging fruit. Louisiana, I have an LLC there as well. You can get a lot of properties down south, for pennies on the dime. Even Detroit, I think a couple of years, Detroit had houses for like $1. It was like land banks and things like that. So yeah, if you've got, people in place, then absolutely. If you're in California, and a lot of people are actually renting their homes in California, and a lot of them are buying properties, out of state, but they have ownership. So
absolutely. Now, how did you go about building that team of boots on the ground so you felt comfortable with investing out of state, especially to be in so many different areas?
Yeah. So I'm like a social butterfly. So I'm constantly networking. I'm constantly networking, and I get to talking, and closed mouths don't get fed. And so when you're meeting people and you find out, okay, what do you do? And it's like, okay, well, I do tax liens, in St. Louis, Missouri, and I have a clubhouse that I teach on Tuesdays. And so, okay, I'll go into the clubhouse, and so I'll start connecting in there, and then I'll join Facebook groups. And so I just like-mindedness attracts like-mindedness. And so I pray also for divine appointments. And so, yeah, I get to talking to people, and, if there's something that I can bring value to them, it just kind of goes from there. And so I've just met people from all over the world. There's still other different cities and states that I want to invest in. So I want to make sure that I'm not just like a squirrel all over the place, but just start somewhere, and yeah, and just execute. So.
And execute, gotta execute. Now, you mentioned with the tax lien, so with those, it's an auction. Walk us through what that process is like in bidding in the auction, getting to see or find information about the house. What was that like for you?
Okay, so the first one, the one in St. Louis, Missouri, that one it's generally from April to October. And it's generally like a 3-day auction. They will send you the list of the homes that are going to be auctioned like a couple of weeks prior. You have the opportunity to do due diligence and come into town like the day or 2 days prior so that you can actually go and see the properties in person. What you also can do is you could pay someone, or if you have a network there where people can do boots on the ground for you. You also want to go to their website and you want to check the address and the records to see if there's any other delinquencies, like any other liens as far as like water liens or, additional back taxes that they owe as well, because you're going to be paying that as well as what they owe, the balance from the auction as well. At the time, St. Louis, Missouri didn't have a fee. You just sign up the day of the auction and you would get a number. That number is like your contract that you use. That number is saying, hey, if they say $1,000 and your number goes up and you win, that's your contract is saying that you're going to pay this $1,000. Now, a lot of people renege. When they renege, they are banned. They are banned from the auction, which means that they're not allowed to come back because your word is bond. Remember, that bid is your contract. So you running up a bid saying, hey, I'm going to pay $79,000 for this house. You have until like 3:00 p.m. that same day to pay. If you do not pay, you are banned. And if you do not pay, then that house becomes available to auction for the next day, because it's a 3-day event. So I would recommend that you stay all 3 days, only because your first day really is kind of like your best day to get like the best properties. But there's always a diamond in the rim. On that 3rd day, there's still some people that have run up the play the 1st and 2nd days and never paid. So that house is still available on that 3rd day. So that's why I highly recommend that you stay all 3 days, because there have been some people that have walked away with some amazing deals even on the 3rd day. And it's energy, like to be there physically, because there's some auctions, all of them are not in person. There's some that you can do online. There's some that's like a closed ballot that you can actually mail in, your auction. So there's so many different ways that they have these tax liens and tax deeds going on. But yeah, for St. Louis, yeah, that was a 3-day event, and we just kind of made a fun thing about it. So we would make it a trip, and because it's business oriented, we write it off on our taxes. But one of my good friends and I, we would come and we would come in a day or two before and drive. And you want to also constantly be looking at the list that's updated, because technically the homeowner still has an opportunity to redeem the property up until the auction starts. So you want to make sure you're not wasting time in looking at properties on that list that the homeowner has they already redeemed it. So that's that. And then the one in Chicago that I was telling you about, the one that had the lake house, that one was a over the counter lien. Now, what that means is that was a home that actually had gone up for auction and nobody had bid on it, but it was still in the process of going for foreclosure. So over the counter means these are homes that you can buy and you're not competing with anybody against the price. Whatever the balance is what you owe. And if you pay it, then it's yours. So that $14,000, I didn't have to run that price up competing with other people. That was what the balance was. And I had a direct connect with the person in Chicago. So.
Wow. Thank you so much for that breakdown. And that
Yeah.
is super, super helpful, especially for people who may not be familiar that this is even an option. So we talk about like off-market properties. This is another way where you can really have a low barrier to entry into becoming an investor. And so even if you are, like you mentioned, holding that property just for the redemption period and making some money off of your investment, or if you actually end up getting to own a property for significantly cheaper than what you would be paying for, because essentially you're just paying off the taxes and then you become the owner for that. So very cool information. So let's shift gears now, because you mentioned that first you started with the tax liens and then you shifted. Tell us about the next couple of properties that you were starting to work with.
Okay. Well, I told you about the flip that I ended up walking away from, that I didn't know about that. Okay. So Airbnbs. So I started off Airbnb my own home. So that's another way. If you got kids that maybe have graduated from high school and have gone to college, and it goes back to your comfort level also, because with the Airbnb, if you've got an actual room within your home, that's a shared space. And so some people may not feel comfortable with that. But if, you can do like a basement that has like a separate entranceway or like a suite, or people are doing, what do you call those, Airstreams? People are doing buses, Airstreams, they're doing tents. I mean, you can Airbnb anything. And just like I was doing Turo, which it's kind of like Airbnb, but on wheels. You're taking something that you own and you're allowing people to borrow it, and they don't have to go through all of the bells and whistles with paying a security deposit and going through security check and getting references and things like that. So I'm all about multiple streams of income. But yeah, I started off Airbnb in a room, once again, because my husband wasn't working and it was just a way to generate income. And then from there, we had acquired Superhost Status. So then from there, I said, well, let me get some properties outside of the home. So at this time, I was in Nashville, Tennessee, which is growing. Like 100 people move there daily. We are now the bachelorette capital of the world. So we had beat out Vegas. And so I had prime properties like right off of Broadway, which is the main strip. They have like all of the bars and all of the entertainment and all of the, concert arenas and Ryman and, just location. So my location was so sweet. I was charging like $400 a night. That's
wow.
So I have a story from one of my Airbnbs that I had got from downtown. Your listing and your turbo boost time is like the most important. It's so pivotal, because once you go live with Airbnb, your first 30 days, you get full access. Your listing is shown on the front page for 30 days. So this was an arbitrage also, which means that I did not own the property. I had to pay someone else rent, and they would also get 25% bookings from what I made. But it is in prime location. So my first arbitrage Airbnb was like, my rent was like $3,200 a month, right? It was $3,200 a month. I fixed it up and listed it within 1 week, because you also know that the longer that it takes you to decorate it and get it listed, you want to recoup your funds back as fast as you can. So 7 days, you
were working. I painted.
I the cord, and this was my first one also, so I didn't know. I bought everything brand new. Okay, so
Okay.
I probably put about 5 grand in decorating it. So that was another lesson that I learned. Then I had 3,200 is due for my rent, but my
Mm-hmm.
listing, I didn't list it correctly. So before I knew about software programs and everything, I selected Airbnb auto pricing. And what Airbnb auto
Mm.
pricing did was it priced my place at $117 a day, including weekends. When my listing went
Mm.
live, within 2 hours, I was booked for the rest of the year at that rate,
Wow.
which
Mm-hmm.
means I would not have made rent or made a
Mm-hmm.
profit because my rent is 3,200 and you want your weekdays price to be lower than your weekends. So that meant
Mm-hmm.
New Year's Eve, somebody had booked my place for $117 for New Year's Eve
Mm.
in downtown.
In
And I was
Nashville.
in Nashville. Yeah. Now, mind you, now also they got to take out 25% cut on top of that. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what am I gonna do? So it
Right.
was nothing but
Right.
the grace of God, and also the fact that I was already Superhost because remember I used my house first. So I called Airbnb
Mm-hmm.
and I said, hey, look, I need your help. I did not know that the auto Airbnb pricing was going to price my place so low. I said, there is no way that I'm going to be able to make rent for 3,200, let alone even make a profit. So they said, okay,
Mm-hmm.
Kim, we're going to help you because you already a Superhost. We're going to cancel all of your cancel. We're going to cancel all of your reservations for you because if you cancel, then it's going to hurt your Superhost status. But because you have so
Mm-hmm.
many, we're going to have to shadow ban your account while we correct and work on this. So I said, okay. So that 30-day turbo boost that I had for my listing to show, I lost that because I had over 18 reservations that they had to work on and they had to cancel one each at a time. And the guests were
Mm-hmm.
like so upset because they're like, you're price gouging and you need to honor your price. And I was like, look, you know that this was an accident. You know that you could not get a property on New Year's Eve for $117 during football season with Tennessee Titans. You know that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had to do a lot of explaining. So by the time they fixed my account, 30 days had already passed. So now my listing is on on the back page, which means that when you're doing
Mm-hmm.
Airbnbs, you're scrolling more through the listings to see. So now my listing is not on first page. So I lost that.
Mm-hmm.
I lost that turbo boost. Then
Right.
that second month, I ended up getting consultation so that I could price correctly. And the lady was a marketing Airbnb person. She wasn't a person that actually experienced having an Airbnb listing herself. So she was like, listed for 350 during the weekday and 500 on weekends. So I did that. So I overpriced
Uh-huh.
it. So I went a whole month
Mm-hmm.
not getting another one. So now we got 2 months. We got 2 months. I paid 6,400
Mm-hmm.
for rent, no bookings. I put in a 5,000 to decorate it. So now the third month, I got it. I found out about a program called Price Labs. So they have software
Mm-hmm.
programs, AirDNA, Beyond Pricing, Price Labs. I was able to get it, but I'm still 2 months behind because I paid out of pocket, right? And
Right.
that that was a learning experience. While I was doing that, I ended up acquiring another Airbnb. And so what I learned from my first situation was, okay, I don't have to buy everything brand new. I started doing stuff from Facebook Marketplace and I started purchasing within
Mm-hmm.
rich areas, rich neighborhoods that
Mm-hmm.
took very nice, great care of their things. And they wasn't really looking to make a lot of money off of it. So I would get like really nice things for like $10, $20. So I spent half the cost on my second Airbnb fixing it up.
Mm.
And then because I already knew about Price Labs, it was priced accordingly. So that was a learning curve that I made. So from my lessons.
Absolutely. And listen, and this is why we are here to learn, so that way learn from others so we don't have to learn everything on our own. And
Yeah.
so I want to go back to make sure that we're capturing here. So one, you started out with Airbnb not owning, so you did the rental arbitrage, and
Well,
so
my
you
house.
were
Remember,
renting out.
I own my house.
Okay, yeah, that's right. So you had the house, you had the room.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yes.
renting out a room. So again, for people that are listening, y'all, it is so important for you to understand what are you trying to do? What is your risk tolerance and what is your comfort level with doing it? No matter if it's real estate investing, if it's stock investing, if it's anything, there's going to be some level of risk. And so you need to assess, what level am I comfortable with, but also what am I willing to do to get it? Because there are going to be people that are like, absolutely not. I'm not renting out my room to strangers. That just sounds crazy. And it's cool. That's not for you then. That's not your strategy. But no, that is an option.
Yes.
So start it there. You mentioned Superhost Status. For those that aren't familiar, can you break down what Superhost Status means? Hey y'all, Tiffany here. Are you looking to purchase or sell real estate? As you know, I'm your aid to assets, and I want to help you with all of your real estate endeavors. Whether you're local here like me in the Fayetteville, North Carolina area, I can then help you purchase or sell your next property. If you're looking to purchase or sell outside of North Carolina, let me know too. I can still help you. I have a team of agents all over the country that I can connect you with to partner on your next deal. Let's get to the closing table, y'all. We buy our way to wealth, whether that's buying right or selling better. Can't wait to hear from you. Click on the link in the bio if you want more information on how to personally work with me or an agent on my team. Talk to you soon.
Superhost status is kind of like a rights to passage where you can up your price. It shows that you are excellent as far as communication. You are excellent as far as keeping your place clean. You are excellent as in your pricing, your location, just overall how you make the guests feel. And so it goes both ways. They can rate you and you can rate them as well. A lot of people think that it's based upon a 5-star status rating also. So even if you were to get a 4-star, it hurts you. It's not like a restaurant rating. Airbnb rating, you want to achieve for either 5-star. And so I have a message that I send to all of my guests when they first check in. I explain to them, I'm going to do all that I can to bring you a 5-star experience. And I know that you're going to do all that you can to conduct yourself as a 5-star guest. So I kind of subliminally put that in them like, hey, you give me 5-star, I give you 5-star, we all good. Anything less than that hurts both of us. And so,
right.
Yeah, that helps a lot. You will be judged, I think, like every quarter, every like 3 to 4 months to keep your 5-star, status rating. And so my gift is hospitality. So that's what brings me great joy. So
I love it. Okay. So you started Superhost with your home.
Yes.
You got the rental arbitrage, spent $5,000 just in decorating, not to mention the rent. And then we got to conclude electricity and water and all of that stuff. So there's bills on top of bills. I love the fact, though, that even while you were still figuring out this first one, you were like, an opportunity presented itself for a second one. Tell us about that. What made you say, I still want to go ahead and get this second one?
Yeah, I actually like the second one better than I did the first one that I got because they were doing a promotion and they were right across the street from one another. So,
wow.
In Nashville, we actually have buildings that are like solely committed just to Airbnb.
Okay.
They actually give you your Airbnb permit. And so that's why they kind of take the 25% commission from all of your bookings because you're using their facility that has, resort amenities and things like that. And the second one I really liked because you got 2.5 months free rent and the rent was cheaper. So
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to find ways to still be able to recoup the funds. And I was like, okay, 2.5 months free rent. I can run the play. Now I know I don't have to buy everything brand new and spend $5,000. So I
Mm-hmm.
split that cost in half. I do all of my painting, so I didn't have to pay a painter. And then, yeah, I just started using OfferUp and Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. And then I took some items even from my home that I had in the garage and decorated it. And so I executed fast with that, had that up and running within a month. And so I was trying to recoup those funds because I know that seemed like a lot of money that was spent with my first Airbnb, but I used business credit cards also. 0% business credit cards that gave you like 12 months, while I still had my own personal mortgage as well. So still,
Wait, Kim, hold on. There's so much game. Wait a
okay.
minute. There's so much game here for the people. So I know y'all heard her. Listeners in the comments, go ahead and put run the play. Run the play. Because Kim just said the second apartment, first off, gave her 2.5 months free rent. So she was able to set up and get people in before she even had to make another rent payment. If that's not a way to go ahead and jump in this game and make some money, that and apartment complexes do it all the time.
Yes.
All the time they have specials and deals. And so she said her first one, she set up in a week. So imagine if you got 2.5 months free rent, you set this apartment up in a week, the time that you can spend to get people in to make that money back is phenomenal. So that's the first thing. Then you said you also were using business credit to furnish these places. So you had credit cards where there's 0% interest for like a year, 18 months.
Yes.
So you make that minimum payment to make sure that you stay up to date. You don't have any late fees, but it's almost as if like you just you're paying only the money back that you spent, excuse me.
Yes.
So there's no interest when we're talking about credit cards. So again, 2.5 months. Let's say I'm going to give you 2 weeks to set up the place. So you still have 2 full months to rent this out to customers to make your money back. You don't have to pay rent. So you're recuperating that security deposit, the money from the other one, and the money that you spent on furniture with all of the bookings. Kim, come on, girl.
Yes.
Come on. You out here working.
I'm trying to put that work
I
in.
love it. And I love that you also were willing to ask for help.
Yes.
So even when the first lady, when she had you overpricing it, you were not deterred. You kept going to figure out what it was that you needed and finding these technologies, these platforms, these tools like Price Lab and AirDNA to help you understand what you needed in order to be successful. That is so cool. Shout out to you for just the resilience and keeping going. Because listen, it has to work or it has to work, right?
It has to work or it has to work. That's right. That's right.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So now we have the tax liens. Now are you still Airbnb-ing your place as well as these 2 Airbnbs downtown?
Well, I have one Airbnb left in Nashville. And I have my current house now that it'll be a multi-use. It'll be a multi.
Okay.
So the number one intention for the lower floor is for the traveling nurses. I am by myself, so I would want to do just women only right now. Then there's another unit upstairs that I can Airbnb that, and I would be open to couples because the way that I have decorated it could be like, a romantic getaway. And then also like my kitchen table is actually a pool table.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, my kitchen table is a pool table. My living room couch is huge, and that can actually convert to a bed as well. And then I've got some very unique pieces in here as well. So there are a couple of other different companies called like Gigster and Pure Space where I would be open to putting my listing on their platform as well, where people can come here and do content creation, or they can do like photo shoots and stuff. There's some very unique designs in this home. So I will try to, diversify different ways that they can rent out this home. So I had a photographer come Saturday. So hopefully those pictures should be back today, this week, and I can get those up and running this week.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, mind you, while you are managing and building these Airbnbs up, getting them ready for clients to come in and stay, you're still working full time, correct?
I'm still working full time. Yes.
Talk to us about that, because like our audience, we're here, we're 9 to 5ers, so we got full-time jobs already, and so now we're trying to figure out, how do we do all this other extra stuff on the side? What was that like for you?
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't had 8 hours of sleep in a long time. You know, entrepreneurship is not sexy. You see the highlight reels, you see the highlight reels, but the reality of it is that foundation, your humble beginnings, you have to put the work in. I am working remote from home, so, and I'm salary, so I do try to finesse my time as I can. They don't really have me like
Mm-hmm.
8 to 5 schedule. It's kind of like, Kim, as long as you have the work done, so I'm at home. If I'm having my realtor sending me emails and stuff on property, so I'm constantly always, looking, through emails and looking at properties. I'm constantly always networking and texting people. And then like if there's events that are going on weekends where I can look at properties there or I can network there, I do that. Then when I'm actually finished with my 9 to 5 work, I'm up all night, doing stuff, or I'm still painting or still getting this house and stuff together. So the grind, it doesn't stop, and I don't want to say balance. I don't know if I really believe in balance. I will say tension. I'm just trying to navigate
Mm-hmm.
tension, and making sure that I know that this is just a season for me. It's not going to always be like this, but for
Mm-hmm.
right now, I have to put it in. Like nobody's coming to save me. Whether I'm divorced, I moved out of state. I didn't know anybody here, and so I have just been, yeah, blazing, just boots running, just blazing. So I am out here almost every day. I do know I probably need to have a day of rest, some type of Sabbath, a day of rest. But yeah, but right now I'm just kind of in beast mode because now some of those credit cards are pushing that 12-month mark where the interest 0% interest rate is getting ready to fade away, and I'm going to have to start paying payments. So
Mm-hmm.
I gotta think about how to generate more income to be able to knock that out. So I don't know if I answered your question correctly, but
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, this is perfect. This is perfect because it's so important for us to realize, one, when we take advantage of funding like that, you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan because, like you mentioned, like the 12 months is going to come to an end. And so giving yourself those benchmarks and knowing, making sure that everything is taken care of. And then also, I love what you said. And I don't know if this is just, I don't know if this is just because I understand. One of the things my coaches says is that sometimes we can turn a season into a state if we aren't careful. And so we can get so overwhelmed by life that we can think that this season that we're in is going to last forever. And it's just something that we got to get through. And so I love that you mentioned this is just the season that I'm in right now. I'm in beast mode because I'm rebuilding. And so I love the mindset that you have regarding that and knowing if I do this work now, if I live like no one else right now, I can live like no one else later.
later,
Right.
yeah.
So talk to us because you mentioned before as well that amongst all of this happened, you then were going through a divorce. And so, especially for many of us, our feelings can take control of us, and all the good intentions and motivation that we have for all of these dreams can really fall by the wayside. How did you stay locked in?
Whew. I would say number one, the grace of God. I am a believer, and so
Won't you do it?
to have something, yeah, bigger than me, I don't know how you could go through life without having some type of faith base, So my values are rooted in Jesus Christ. So I would say he's been my number one thing on how I've been able to grace this journey that I'm going through. And then also having a therapist is so key. I just feel like at this point, everybody needs therapy. I feel like everybody needs therapy. Even if you came from a great two-family home, I just feel like there's just so much trauma that we go through: food trauma, financial trauma, family. I mean, just so much.
Mm-hmm.
And so those have been my two biggest things. Third one's probably community. Learned about your top five, your circle. I think the enemy, he preys on isolation. And then you begin to feel like I'm alone. But when you start to have community and you open up and share, then you realize, wow, I'm not by myself. I'm not the only one that's gone through divorce. I'm not the only one that's wrestling with these things. And so, yeah, they said you can go fast alone, but you can go further together. And so, even though my marriage failed, I am not a failure. And I'm victorious through
Mm-hmm.
Christ. He still loves me. I wrestled for the longest, even severing my union, because I was so caught up into thinking, what's the church going to think of me? The judgment. I feel like I let my children down. I let people down that looked at me as relationship goals, because you're talking about 26 years just to, walk away from that. And so,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still here. I'm still alive. And yeah, this is light work. This is a light affliction compared
Come
to,
on, somebody.
yeah. So,
That is beautiful because it talks about you just freed somebody here and
mm,
letting them know there's light at the end of the tunnel,
yes,
that you can keep going. And this is a beautiful new chapter that you are embarking on, because once again, a season is not a state. And
yes,
so even though that season may have ended and it may have been much longer than many of our other seasons in life, it just means that there's so much more in store.
yes,
There's so many new things that you have yet to experience.
yes.
So, what would you, if you could go back now, seeing all that you've done, all that you've experienced, all that you've accomplished in your real estate journey, what would you say to you, but let's say a year before you started? What would be the advice you would give yourself?
What would be the advice that I would give myself in regards to real estate or just overall?
Real estate. Mm-hmm.
I would say number one, invest in you. Get some type of mentor, some type of coach.
Mm-hmm.
They have masterminds. They do have mentors. Start start somewhere. And because it is just so key, because a lot of times with your mentors and your masterminds, if you can get over payment, there's certain words you want to eliminate. So I try to eliminate the word pay and payment and things like that, and look at it as investment. You're investing in yourself, and this investment can go long term. It can pass on to your children's children, your family, your generations to come after you, even after you're long gone. If you look at it like that, it'll just make all the difference in the world. And then also, what you're doing is you're investing also in that person that has expertise that you don't. That person has had hiccups. That person has had haircuts that they have experienced. And so, what they're doing is they're helping you not have to experience some of the hardships and the hiccups that they have gone through. So, you're having a faster execution point. You're having a quicker, recovery, a quicker, success rate on top of that. So, yeah, come out of just being by yourself. You don't have to do this alone. So, yeah, that would be my biggest thing. Invest in yourself, and do that either with some type of coach, mentorship, or some type of program.
Love that. You do not have to do this alone. Your mentor, their whole role is for you to go higher faster. And so don't get all the bumps and bruises that other people have already done.
Yeah.
Learn from them. Be willing to pay for their expertise and their knowledge. Kim, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your lessons and learnings along the way. Before we wrap up, one question that I like to ask guests on the show, we do a bit of a vision casting here.
Okay.
And so when you think about your life, your business, what can you say will be true for you if we rewatch this episode a year from now, 3 years from now? What's going to be true for you?
What's going to be true for me within a year to 3 years from now? I would say I actually will not be in corporate America. I will be a full time investor, prayerfully international investor as well.
Come
And
on, we claiming it.
yes, and maybe a coach as well that I can be able to help other people. I have been putting off an e-course for the longest on like just 101 Airbnb 101 basics as far as just like starting. So hope to get into the e-course world as well. But yeah, I want my freedom back. I want my time back.
I love it. I love it. That is what we are here for. We are buying our way to wealth so then we can have the time to do the things that we know and love.
Yes.
So thank you so much. Kim, where can the people find you if they want to follow, reach out, have any follow-up questions?
Okay. Well, because I'm still in the medical industry, my IG account is private, but if you request me, it is officially Kimberly Renee. You can find me there on Instagram. Yeah, that's my main thing that I'm using right now. I know they've got, what is it, Threads and Twitter. I can't keep up with everything, so I'm trying to master one thing right now. So Instagram, you can reach out to me on Instagram.
Love it. And y'all, that will be in the description of this video, as well as Kim's Airbnb. And so if you're in the area and want a dope place to stay in, you'll also have a link to that so you can find it. As always, y'all, this has been another amazing episode of the Aid to Assets podcast. We are helping you buy your way to wealth. And so if you are trying to start or scale your real estate portfolio, no, you are not alone. There is a community of people just like you. We are all getting to the bag, and you can too. Until we meet again, have a great one. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to another insightful episode of Aid to Assets. Remember, your journey from 9-to-5er to successful real estate investor is within reach. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep investing in your future. If you'd like to know more, connect with me on Instagram at Aid to Assets. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Until next time, happy investing.